do this all day.
A bunch of a-holes. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Hello and welcome back to the Infinity Saga and Beyond, an MCU fan podcast. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and with me today is no one. It's just me today, talking some Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. We're going to talk about my initial thoughts. We're going to talk about, the story scene by scene or plot line by plot line. We're going to discuss about those end credit scenes, and we're going to give a little background on the character of Shang-Chi to begin with. So I hope everybody is strapped in and ready to talk some Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So the first thing I want to talk about is just the background of the character, because not too many people are familiar with Shang-Chi as a character. The character, this is all according to the Wikipedia, so you can look this up yourself as well, but just give a quick background here. The character was conceived in late 1972. Marvel Comics was actually trying to acquire the rights to adapt Kung Fu, a television show, but were denied permission by the show's owner, who turned out to be Warner Communications, which owned, of course, DC Comics. So instead, Marvel acquired the rights to a book by Sax Rohmer with his pulp villain, Dr. Fu Manchu. So they developed Shang-Chi as an original character, and his dad would be Dr. Fu Manchu, and a lot of the supporting characters were also creations by Sax Rohmer. So that meant once they lost the rights to the Dr. Fu Manchu stories, Shang-Chi actually was the only character left. So Shang-Chi is a Marvel-owned character. He's spun out of the licensed property, but he is not affected by that because he's an original creation. But all of his supporting cast and his dad turned out to be, reverted back to whoever owned the rights to Dr. Fu Manchu. So this was also, one of in 2006, Kevin Feige talked about this as well, but Shang-Chi was chosen as one of the main properties when Marvel Studios made their deal with Paramount Pictures, along with Cap, Nick Fury, Doctor Strange, Hawkeye, Power Pack, Black Panther, and Cloak and Dagger. So, we got a Cloak and Dagger show on Freeform, so it seems like Feige kind of gave up on Cloak and Dagger there. Power Pack was in development and is no longer in development as a TV show, so I don't know if that was going to be tied to Marvel Studios or not. But we've seen Hawkeye, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Nick Fury, and Captain America, and we would have seen Shang-Chi earlier, but they, I guess, put it off. I guess they couldn't really get something going on that front. He's also been, movies back before in the 90s, I think. They were trying to get something going with him, or even earlier 2000s. They were trying to get something going, Shang-Chi, before the rights reverted back to Marvel at some point. But yeah, he's modeled after Bruce Lee from the drawing things there. They ended up, once they lost the rights to Dr. Fu Manchu, they made in a comic book where his father name was revealed to be Zhang Zhu, who was an ancient Chinese sorcerer who discovered the secret to immortality, which is kind of related to what we'll get to with the Ten Rings. So just to say that, this is not a faithful comic adaptation. This is very different. It's very, changed for the MCU. And the reason why nobody's usually up in arms about this when it comes to characters like Shang-Chi is that they weren't as popular. You'll get people very upset with the way Spider-Man is handled, or really wait until Fantastic Four or X-Men come into the MCU, because if there's changes there, people are still going to freak out about that. But with these, like, other characters, Scott Lang, or, any character that's not, X-Men, Spider-Man, or Fantastic Four, it's going to be a lot easier to make changes because people as a whole are not as familiar with them. Of course, the comic fans are, but, and with Shang-Chi, there's actually so much room to work with because there's not many comic runs of him. You can go to Marvel Unlimited and check that, but there's not many where, they're talking about, canceling the Daredevil comic, I think, right now as well. And, if Daredevil can't get it going, it's hard to think that, like, they just started a new Shang-Chi line earlier this year, which I'm going to read on the Marvel Unlimited app, but hopefully the movie propels that to more sales, because comics as a whole are really in a dire straits, unfortunately. Good thing is Disney owns Marvel, and they can kind of just keep, making those at a loss, I guess. And being able to experiment things there to put into their movies, they're able to check all that. But last thing I want to say here, he first appeared in Special Marvel Edition number 15, which was December of 1973, and it was written by Steve Englehart and Jim Starlin. So, one reason why they're going to change Shang-Chi's father name from Fu Manchu or Zhang Zhu to Wenwu. I'm not sure why they changed it to Wenwu from Zhang Zhu, but I do like Wenwu better. But Fu Manchu was not a great character. There's a lot of racial things that people have kind of noticed now, I think, were very, yellow scare, I guess you would say, where people were very anti-Asian during that time. And it just works better to do it this way, especially when you can create your own original character like Wenwu, and played by Tony Leung, and he's fantastic in this movie, and you're able to, hopefully retcon that into the comics at some point, because you lost the rights to Dr. Fu Manchu, so why even continue down that, or, change his name? Just create a whole new background for Shang-Chi, and I hope they do. I mean, like I said, I haven't read the new comics that came out this year, so maybe they did, and I don't know, but I'm looking to maybe get a book club going here. I might do that on some of the off weeks where, we look at some comics in Marvel Unlimited and talk about them another time. So let's talk Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So this was directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, screenplay by Dave Callahan and Destin Daniel Cretton and Andrew Lanham, starring Simu Liu, Awkwafina, Menger Zhang, Fala Chen, Florian Munteanu, Benedict Wong, Michelle Yeoh, Ben Kingsley, and Tony Leung. It was released September 3rd in the US, running time of 132 minutes. And we're gonna talk about that, and we're gonna talk the box office as well afterwards. But let's go ahead and get into the plot here. So we start out thousands of years ago. Wenwu has found the Ten Rings. They mention that he found them maybe in a crater or a tomb. We're gonna talk about that at the end. But they're mystical weapons that grant the user immortality and great power. So he also creates an army called the Ten Rings, and he goes and makes a kingdom or an empire called the Ten Rings. And throughout history, he's going to topple governments, as the narration says, and he's going to also conquer many kingdoms. In 1996, though, as he's searching for Tao Lo, which is a village which has magical beasts and creatures and, magical properties that he's looking to expand his empire into, he goes to the, magic forest in a jeep, and, the forest starts closing up as it does, and they're going to escape, but it's going to run their car off of a cliff, and he uses the Ten Rings to blow the door off and make a safe landing as everybody else falls to their death. One interesting thing here is in his journal, there is sketches of the dragon that we'll see later, and we also actually see Morris, a character we'll know to become Morris later, a creature which are mythological creatures in Chinese mythology called Hunduns. And I did not know this. I did not know that this was an actual Chinese mythical creature. I thought it was something that they made for Shang-Chi. So learning that is really cool. And this is the kind of things that I think is great when you hire people that are familiar with the culture and you make a movie that's based around a culture and you do it justice like this. We were just talking about how Fu Manchu was the name of the villain and Shang-Chi's father in the comics, and how it had some racial issues in the comics, and being able to convert that into a cultural appropriate story and giving it real, something that Asian Americans or Asians as a whole can be very proud of, and the way that it's portrayed is great, and that's why Marvel Studios does what they do, and I am very appreciative, as we can start to see more diversity among our heroes, and I'm down for seeing these obscure characters that not a lot of people are familiar with get the spotlight and make these characters that were considered, B-list or C-list or even worse list characters get the spotlight. And like I talked about with, I think, Jack on the Avengers Campus episode, and I've talked about it with people in person as well, is it's crazy how kids growing up, can now cite so many superheroes as their favorite. Jack's favorite is Doctor Strange and Ant-Man. Mine growing up, I had pretty much three options. You had like Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman. Those were the only three most well-known. And of course you have, Fantastic Four or X-Men. I really liked Wolverine growing up, and Cyclops because of the cartoon. Gambit was really good growing up. But now people can grow up and say their favorite hero is Groot, or Rocket, or Shang-Chi, or Ant-Man and Doctor Strange. Black Panther. Characters that were not as much in the spotlight are now in the spotlight and making money and becoming famous, well-known heroes. And it's fantastic. Sorry for the side story there, but Wenwu is going to find Ying Li, who is the village guardian for Ta Lo, and ends up being Shang-Chi's Shang-Chi's mother. So they do this little skirmish, and she defeats him with the 10 rings. Even though he has the 10 rings, she will defeat him, and they're actually going to fall in love. And he's going to continue to come back every so often, and he's going to woo her, and she will eventually leave Ta Lo for him. Because what we'll find out later is that they rejected Wenwu because of his past as a emperor, I guess, is what the official name would be, right? An emperor or conqueror, whatever he was officially. The thousands of years destruction that he has caused. They turned their back on him, which makes sense. You didn't want him into Ta Lo and causing what he will eventually cause at the end of this movie. So they're going to have two children, Shang-Chi, who we will meet here, and Shaylin. And we are introduced here to the mother. She was talking the whole time, Ying Li, but then we see that she's talking to Shang-Chi as a 7-year-old, as they are working on, I guess, an origami type thing. Like, she's folding the paper into a dragon. I'm not sure if that's really origami. I don't want to mix up cultures there, but, she's folding the paper into a dragon. She's going to hand it to him. And we find out that she left Ta Lo, and she no longer has this power. Shang-Chi asks her, "Do you have this power still?" And she says, "No. I gave it up for your father, and I got something even better." And she's alluding to, having Shang-Chi and Shaylin. So, it's a cute moment. She gives him this medallion that is kind of like a opal or emerald type. It's a green medallion that she's going to put around Shang-Chi's neck, and we kind of get then the sound of an alarm and Shang-Chi waking up, and we get this nice little fake out of, Shang-Chi getting dressed, nice clothes, then we have the nice car pulling up, and we see the shoes coming out, and then it's not Shang-Chi, it's a guy, and he tosses his keys to Shang-Chi, who's working as a valet, and he's working with his friend Katie, And Katie's going to try to take the car. She's going to try to go on a joyride, and, she says she'll go slow, and the next cut is her going super fast through San Francisco, which is where we're based at, and where, Ant-Man is famously based at in these. And, I just thought of something that we can talk about at the end of this. But yeah, so that's what we get here. Then we are going to cut to Shang-Chi having dinner with Katie and one of their other friends from high school. I think her name was Mary. But, yeah, it doesn't have it listed here. And her husband. And they're talking about how they met. All three of them met. And, somebody was being kind of racist to Shang-Chi, saying about calling him Gangnam Style. And we get something that'll pay off later here, but Katie going up to the kid and just singing the lyrics to Hotel California. This is going to pay off twice, by the way. Hotel California lyrics, and then taking his Mustang and going on a joyride then as well with Shang-Chi, and I think the girl's name was Mary. I feel very bad for not knowing. And this surprises the lady's husband, and they say, whatever happened to you? She says, I grew up. And they mention the snap here, in a world where people can just disappear, half the world can just disappear. I feel like this worked more in the argument's favor of Shang-Chi and Katie. She's talking about how in a world of, where anything can happen, that she's career-oriented. I feel like I'd be the opposite. In a world where I can just disappear by a snap of a finger, I think that I would be more like Shang-Chi and Katie, going out late at night and drinking and doing karaoke. Because you want to live your life, right? You're not going to want to... It's not going to make you want to settle down like, oh, I know my priorities now. I have to work. I feel like that would put more things in perspective of not the work attitude. But you never know. But anyway, enough rant there as well. But they go out and they drink and they have karaoke. They say that they should be responsible, but they don't. And it's Shang-Chi and Katie going out to do that while they left their friends behind at the end of dinner. We then get the morning. Shang-Chi's on his way to Katie's to pick her up on their way to work. They have the early shift as mentioned in the scene before. And we get Katie's family here. They're kind of upset that she is just a valet driver. We learn that she has a degree as well. I think that was actually in the dinner scene. But yeah, we get that scene with the family. It's a nice scene. And they say they're going to be late. And we get to probably my favorite part of the movie. We get to the bus scene. This bus scene, I've said this to a few people now, but I've seen this movie twice, and I think I would pay full admission to go see this movie again just for this bus scene, probably a few more times. And I cannot wait until this is on Disney Plus or on Blu-ray so I can just watch this scene over and over and over again. Because it has really great music. Run It is the name of the song on the soundtrack. Sung by... Who sings this? DJ Snake, Rick Ross, and Rich Brian. And it starts out innocent enough. They're on the bus, Katie makes a reference to the person in front of them who's working on a paper while they're on the bus on a laptop. She mentions that it's how probably the daughter her mom always wanted, and that's just not her. And then a guy comes over and asks Shang-Chi to give up the pendant. And he tries to play it off like he has no idea what he's talking about, and says he doesn't want any trouble or whatever. So two other guys grab him, and Katie starts throwing a fit. She's like, no, does it look like he knows how to fight? Like, leave him alone. And they hurt Katie, and that's it. Shang-Chi is furious. He goes ahead and punches the guy. We get this nice slow-mo punch here, and the reaction from Katie and the reaction from Shang-Chi here. And then he goes and starts fighting the rest of the goons on the bus. This is a great scene it's the best. Hesitating to say this, but I do think it is the best action scene in the MCU. Could be recency bias, but one thing I really like about it is it's no shaky cam like you see in Civil War or Black Widow or Winter Soldier, where there's lots of shaky cam, quick cuts, stuff like that. You see all of this action. There's not a lot of cuts. It is like, physical stunts, wire work, all that great stuff. A little bit of CG blended in here and there. But it just felt like a great epic action scene. It was awesome. One of my favorite moments is, of course, when he's going to take the jacket off mid-fight, wrap the guy's hands around it, and then, punch or kick him, whatever he does there. And then while he's mid-fight with another guy, slipping the jacket back on and finishing the fight, and putting the jacket back on with his movements as he's punching and, kicking, was awesome. It's just such a quick moment, such a good moment, and a satisfying moment, honestly. Really just perfect. This fight scene goes on for a bit, and it's great. And then he defeats a few of them, and we get Razor Fist, who comes out with like a machete on his arm. And we get a character named Clev, I think is his name here. He's videoing it, and I think he's supposed to be the same character from New York in Homecoming. He's the one that tells Spider-Man to do like a backflip at the top of the building. He's also been in the show You on Netflix. He's been in a few things, but I think this is supposed to be the same character. I guess he just is over in San Francisco, but I love the way that he says, I've taken some martial arts as a kid, so I'm going to grade this fight as we're going. And you see Shang-Chi doing just unbelievable things. You're like, yeah, of course, Clev is the one who is able to grade this, right? Okay, so from there, we get this fight scene, and, Razor Fist starts... He has to start fighting off Razor Fist. They try to get all the people to the front of the bus because there's a moment where he dodges a blow from Razor Fist and starts cutting up the accordion part of the bus that stitches, the back and the front together for, like, turns and stuff when it's, like, a double bus type of thing. Like, double-length bus or whatever. And this move when Shang-Chi has to wrap up Razor Fist and hold him against the corner here to get people into the front of the car was awesome. And then he told Katie, wait for my signal. And he pulls the stop requested thing, and she knows to make a hard right. And the bus splits in half, and he makes the jump to the other side. And it was just awesome. I can't really describe it any other way than awesome or brilliant or best fight scene ever. I mean, it's really good. So, the pendant does get taken in this part, and, Katie goes back to his apartment with him, and she's like, who are you? What's your name? He does tell her that, on the plane anyway, that is, he's not Sean, his name is Shang-Chi. There's a great exchange there on the plane as well of the, of her making fun of that, in the sense of, you pretty much took off the G and pronouncing it Sean, it's no wonder he found you type of thing, which was great. But we also did see at the beginning where in this apartment, he has a postcard from his sister, what he thinks is his sister. And he mentions to Katie that they have to go to his sister because he thinks that she is next, because she has a pendant as well. So that's when she's like, she's going to get on the plane with him. And they do, and we get a great scene as well with the waitress or stewardess of the plane where she says, vegetarian, chicken, or beef, but we don't have any more chicken. So they're like, okay, vegetarian. And then she comes back later. She says, well, we're actually out of vegetarian as well. So what will you have? And they have to say the beef, right? There's no other option. So that was a great moment as well on the plane. Then they get to China, Macau. So they get to Macau, and it's Underground Fight Club is the address that his sister had of the postcard. And we get this scene in the elevator where a guy's not answering his questions, makes him sign a paper. And then we are introduced to the character who's kind of like second in command, I guess, of Shang-Chi. We get this guy in second command of this fight ring. He's going to tell Shang-Chi he has to fight. He signed the papers on the way up, and that's what it was for. And we get the fight scene here of what we saw in the trailers of Abomination versus Wong, which was a fun fight scene. I really liked how Wong used the portals to make Abomination punch himself. It seems like they were either going to try to fix the match or whatever, because he said you should be pulling your punches, and that hurt, and that's how he's going to show him how much it hurt by making him punch himself. We'll see them again. One of Shang-Chi's in the locker room, and they get sent, they're going back through the portal. Looks like he's probably putting them back in the raft, so I don't know if it's like a time off of, time, like a rehabilitation thing, or, why Wong is with Emil Blonsky, the Abomination. Maybe we'll find more out about that. I don't know. But we get Shang-Chi going up against his sister in the cage match. That was a nice scene as well. But yeah, so we're all the way through that at that point, and then we're going to get to another great fight scene here when he's talking to his sister, mentions that their dad is coming to get the pendant. She says she doesn't need his help. He says, "Why'd you send me the postcard?" And she says, "I didn't send you a postcard." So, Wen Wu has orchestrated this. As he'll say at the dinner scene later, he always knows where his children are. And we get the fight scene where they break out of the window and, they're going on the scaffolding. And we get this great scaffolding fight, too. Just the action in this movie is awesome. We get this moment where Shang-Chi is going to, be on the scaffolding. He's going to fall at one point on purpose. He's going to jump and hit with his hands, a board that's there. 2x4 or whatever. That's going to then jump up and whack somebody in the head and knock him out. It was just, it's a really good scene. And, then we get Katie on the bamboo as it's going to break, and Shang-Chi does this great, fight scene to get over there. He's going to grab her, and then he's going to accidentally let go, and she's actually caught by Shang-Chi's sister, who had abandoned them earlier as soon as people started coming. Then the Death Dealer, who is the character with the white mask, is going to come and grab the pendant. Shang-Chi goes to follow him, and we get another good fight scene here. And it looks like he's about to kill him, and then we get the rings knocking him off, and Wen Wu is there, and he's captured Katie, he's captured Shang-Chi, and he is going to capture Shang-Chi and take him home. Once they get home, he's going to tell, Wen Wu is going to tell the kids that he's been hearing the mother's voice and that she's leading them back to Talo, and actually says that she is behind a gate there and that her own people have put her behind there, which sounds sketchy, and if you guess that, you're right, it is sketchy, because it's just a creature on the other side of the wall talking to him, I guess through the rings, or knowing he has the rings, talking to him and trying to tell him that that is the case, posing as his dead wife. So that is kind of the, the thing that's driving the plot forward here. We get the pendants and him putting them in a dragon's eye, and it shows the pathway through this magical water that comes out and makes a path in a map on how to get there, and that the path opens up in 3 days on a certain day. Well, Shang-Chi says, no, we shouldn't be doing this. So he locks them away in a dungeon type thing. And we hear some sounds and we wonder, who could that be? And I will say I was happily correct in my guess here that this is who it would be. It's Trevor Slattery. If you don't remember who this is, he was in Iron Man 3 playing the Mandarin, the leader of the Ten Rings. So I remember this was a big thing in 2013. People were very upset that this wasn't the real Mandarin and not the real Ten Rings, and that it was, Guy Pearce's character, Aldrich Killian, who was the bad guy with extremists and all that kind of stuff. And in All Hail the King, they kind of fixed that, which was a Disney Plus short, or is now a Disney Plus short, but was a one-shot, Marvel one-shot, which were on the Blu-rays. And in there, that's where they break out Trevor Slattery, because they say, like, the real Mandarin wants him. And that's Wen Wu. Wen Wu brings him here. He was going to kill him, and instead he's kind of like his jester. He makes him do Macbeth performances because that's how he stopped him from getting killed. He just started quoting Macbeth, and, you know, now he puts on shows every so often. And he's got his Liverpool scarf there. That makes my friend Matt happy. Matt is a Liverpool fan. He's been on the show here, and he's on our soccer podcast, Stoppage Time Soccer Show, so that was a cool moment as well. And I love how he mentions that, you know, his portrayal of his father was, you know, a not accurate portrayal, or, you know, kind of referencing how Ben Kingsley playing an Asian was not probably the best choice, but it turned out that, you know, when people were upset about that it was false anyway. It was a UK, he was playing Trevor Slattery as the Mandarin, so that was actually already addressed in Iron Man 3, but we even dropped the name that Iron Man, you know, blew up, you know, extremists and Aldrich Killian and who was the actual terrorist. They make all these allusions to Iron Man 3 there, and it was great to get those references again here. And this is what is so great about the MCU, is being able to use characters again. And in this case, we get to see the real Mandarin, and they make reference to that at the dinner as well. That the Mandarin is kind of a touchy subject when you talk about Marvel villains. He's typically Iron Man's arch nemesis, and he has the 10 rings, this very mystical thing, and people thought that wouldn't work with the Iron Man we were set up with in Iron Man 1 and 2, but now we got, like, Thor and Doctor Strange and all these characters that are, you know, way past the grounded reality of Iron Man 1. So it fits in pretty well here. So we get, at the dinner where he's talking about, you know, how a terrorist needed a boogeyman and named him the Mandarin, which, you know, was an orange or a chicken dish and wasn't an actual real name of Wen Wu, but they based it off of him. So that's what's cool. We get, like, this character that was based off of him in the MCU is now really in the MCU, and we kind of dropped the Mandarin name, and Dr. Fu Manchu's, we said all those names are dropped, and we're focusing on just having more authentic names like Wen Wu, and that's great. But yeah, so we meet Trevor Slattery, and that's when we meet Morris, the Hun Dun, you know, no face, no eyes, just a furry body with some wings, or as Katie's going to call him, a chicken pig. Morris is MVP of this movie. He is so cute. They're selling plushes of him. I really need to get a Morris plush. He's awesome. His bond with Trevor is great. We get this great scene where he says that, you know, Morris tells Trevor that he knows Shang-Chi's mother and that they grew up together in Ta Lo, and that he can lead them to Ta Lo. And Trevor says that Morris is 90% sure. And then, you know, this got one of the biggest laughs in the theater here. But then when Morris talks again, he says, 19% sure. And you're like, oh, geez, there's only 19% chance they can get through here. But Katie says they've done things with worse odds, so why not? And they're going to escape because Shay Ling, during all this, has broken through the walls. She says there's been tunnels under here, and that's how she got out the first time. So she's able to help them escape. They're going to steal Razor Fist's car, and they're going to drive out of there after a great fight scene here as well, trying to have them stop with the cars. Good car chase scene and the little fight scene in the back of the car. But they get to the forest, and we get this great scene as well with the forest and, you know, the moving forest, which is just a really cool concept and great imagery. And Morris leads them the way there, and we get to see, you know, like a Ninetales Pokemon type style. But no, these are all Asian mythological characters and creatures. which fits with this. And it's great. It's beautiful. And, the people of Ta Lo are a little hesitant at first until we see Shang-Chi's aunt, who was the sister of his mother, is there and explains for everybody to kind of drop their weapons. Then we get, all this background with the mother, and, the aunt provides Shang-Chi with the armor that we will see him wear the rest of the movie. She's also going to teach him how his mother defeated Wenwu. One great thing here, too, is when they're kind of like sparring, is that she opens up Shang-Chi's hands. He had them more in fists, and she's going to open them up more as like palms and more of a defensive stance, I guess, right, than an offensive. Or I'm not sure really what it means in the culture, right? But he was seen with the fist. He's going to open it up, and he's now going to be, I guess, more open. He's more defensive is how I read it, but who knows? Not me, I guess. We get Katie learning how to shoot bow and arrow, which is interesting. We get Shay Ling with her rope with the dragon scales. We learn that dragon scales are their armor and their weapons there, which comes in handy when the Dweller, which is the bad guy here, the Dweller in Darkness and his minions, are susceptible to those dragon scales. So that will come in handy in a bit. But we get this nice scene as well where the aunt is going to tell everybody about, in these like carvings of where they come from, the background of the city of Ta Lo, village of Ta Lo, and how the door leads to like another dimension, I guess, or universe, and that is where the Dweller in Darkness is, and he's trying to get through to their world. And then once he's through there, he's going to go to Shang-Chi's world. And that's kind of the stakes here. So Wenwu is trying to get there to let him out because he thinks that it is his wife, because the Dweller in Darkness is talking to Wenwu in the voice of his wife and telling him, come help me. So that's where we're at. They get there a few days early because Morris is able to lead them in the different way of the path where they don't need the path to open up. So while Wenwu had to wait like 3 days, they're able to get there, I guess, 2 days early and able to start practicing. And then we get the battle. We get the final battle here once Wenwu's people get there, and nice little skirmish in the grass as well. We get a nice scene with like the lion creature. Like somebody tosses one up to him, and he like just smashes one of the guys like way across the battle here. And then we're also going to get Wenwu starting to go on his own way. Shang-Chi's going to try to stop him. They're at the shrine for the mother. Wenwu is going to easily defeat him, push him into the water, and Shang-Chi is falling, and he's going to call upon the Great Protector, which is the dragon, and the dragon is going to come and help, and he's going to, be on the back of the dragon helping out, and then he's going to go try to stop his father. And we get a great scene here with the fight scene with the father and Wenwu and Shang-Chi, where Shang-Chi's going up there with no rings, but he's actually going to come out of there with 10. And at one point he's going to have 5. Like, he really does do very well. He uses the style of his ancestry, the moves his mother had and his aunt showed him. And he's going to defeat Wenwu. But unfortunately, the Dweller in Darkness then is able to get out because the minions have gotten enough souls to let him break out. And the Dweller in Darkness is going to suck the soul of Wenwu, who's going to give the rings to Shang-Chi, and he's going to defeat the Dweller in Darkness after Katie punches an arrow with the throat. But it's a little worrisome there when the dragon, the Great Protector was about to get his soul sucked before Katie was able to help. And then we get this great moment with Shang-Chi, in the air, coming down with the rings inside the belly of the Dweller in the Darkness, and him doing all these moves to then like make him shine and just blow that dragon up, the Dweller in Darkness up. It's great. But what I want to say too, really great when he's battling his father. One of the best scenes really is the Shang-Chi stepping out of the smoke and the 10 rings are just spinning around him. And then he does the same move his mom does where like the rings become like this ball of energy and then he just discards them to the side. I'm not going to fight you, Dad. Pretty much like a Luke Skywalker throwing his saber type of thing. Great moment there. But yeah, that's it. They blow up the monster. They're going to have the scene where they're, mourning the loss. I do like the scene as well where Morris sees Trevor's body and worries he's dead and trying to wake him up. And Trevor just wakes up and says, "It's just a performance, dude. I'm fine. Like, come lay next to me and pretend to play dead," pretty much. It's great. And there's also the scene with Trevor where he's, while everybody's training, he's teaching the kids of the village how to play soccer. Oh no, that's offsides. Like, that is great. As a soccer fan, that's just a great moment. But yeah, then we kind of get the whole scene in San Francisco where they're at dinner again with their friend Mary and her husband. And again, I'm not sure if her name's Mary. I think that's what I keep thinking it is. It doesn't have it listed on any of these articles I have here. And they don't believe them, right? They're like, yeah, right. You have these 10 rings. You're all powerful. You stop the soul suckers, whatever. But then Wong opens up a portal and starts calling out for Shang-Chi. And Shang-Chi and Katie get up and they're like, all right, yeah, we'll Venmo you for the drinks and we gotta go. And they go into the portal and that's how the movie ends. But we get the end credit scenes. So let's go ahead and talk about mid-credit scene, which is probably one of the longest credit scenes and really good one. But we have Shang-Chi with Wong doing a scan on the 10 rings and holograms like in Endgame when Nat's talking to everybody. We have Captain Marvel herself, Carol Danvers, there. She says, unlike any alien tech she's ever seen. And then Bruce Banner, again as Bruce Banner, no more Professor Hulk, but he still has his arm in the sling here from snapping. So that arm is still kind of lost, but he must have reversed the Professor Hulk procedures. Or people have speculated he has a wristwatch on type of thing that has a greenish color. Maybe people think he's able to turn on and off his Professor Hulk that way. But anyway, he's going to mention about how it's like calling out to something in like space. Essentially, it's alien. It's older than the thousands of years or 1,000 years that Shang-Chi's father, Wenwu, has had them. They ask, how long has your father had these? He says 1,000 years. They say, well, these are much older than that. And it's calling to something. People have speculated that it is calling to a alien planet, which an alien planet that they're thinking it is calling to Makluan, what is it? The Maklu system. On planet Maklu 4, there is a dragon creature named Fin Fang Foom. Big Marvel character, Fin Fang Foom. It's a shape-shifting alien, but he kind of looks like a dragon. Maybe he is an ancestry to the Great Protector? We don't know. It says Foom in the thing here. Foom and several other like-minded members of his race departed their homeworld to conquer other planets and landed on Earth in ancient China. So maybe the Great Protector is part of that race or not. But Fin Fang Foom has been around for a while. Has ties to the Mandarin. Has ties to, I think, but been around for a while. So we'll see how it goes there. But that's what most people are thinking it is, and it could be that, or it could be some sort of next Avengers threat. But I will say I really like that they gave Shang-Chi to keep the rings. It's not typical in the comics, but what I like about it is we've kind of always had these complaints in the Avenger films where people are like, well, what's Hawkeye gonna do? He's just a guy with a bow and arrow. Or what's Black Widow gonna do? She's just a girl with a gun. If you had a guy who's just martial arts, people would have said, oh, all he can do is fight with his hands. So him having these powerful mystical rings ups his power level, where you can definitely see him being an Avenger and taking on cosmic threats and not just street level crime. You know, he's been a part of like the Heroes for Hire with Luke Cage and Danny Rand, but he hasn't really been on too many Avengers teams. I think he was in the Hickman run for Avengers, which was a good run for Shang-Chi, and just a good Hickman run in the comics. But yeah, so that is the first scene here. And then we get the payoff the second time. There was a payoff originally on the scaffolding for Katie singing Hotel California lyrics. Then we get the cut to them in the karaoke bar with Wong singing Hotel California, and it just really paid off tremendously there. Then we have the rest of the credits. Then we have the end credit scene where Shay Ling becomes the new leader of the 10 Rings. And we get the credit scene that says the 10 Rings will return. So we're going to see more 10 Rings. Not sure how they're going to fit in to this, if it's Shang-Chi, sequel or Armor Wars or into another one like that. But she was kind of converting the base with, like, she was starting to add, like, satellites look like graffiti. Like, she was really changing it into kind of like what her Fight Club looked like. So, really interesting to see where those go. So, I was talking about how this was based in San Francisco, where Ant-Man is as well. I'm wondering if one of the Avenger movies we're going to get is not just like Avengers 5, if it's West Coast Avengers. So, West Coast Avengers is a superhero team where the heroes are on, well, you guessed it, the West Coast. There's been numerous members there throughout the time here, but it started in 1984. So in 2008, the lineup is Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, Gwenpool, America Chavez, Quentin Quire, and Kate boyfriend Johnny Watts. But the original lineup is what I'm trying to find here. Looks like Hawkeye with Wonder Man, maybe, with Iron Man. Yeah, so I mean, there's some West Coast heroes that can definitely fit in here, and I think you could have a Shang-Chi who's based in San Francisco, Ant-Man and the Wasp based in San Francisco. They could probably introduce some more as we go as well. But just a thought that could be one of the Avenger titles we get. Instead of it just being like Avengers : something, you could get West Coast Avengers. I wonder if they would do that. I definitely think we'll get a Young Avengers at some point. But I wonder if they would do West Coast Avengers as a name. I wonder if they think that may not be clear enough on what that is, or because it is a very weird name. I think, obviously it's pretty standard to Avengers on the West Coast, but I think people might be thinking it's like a joke title. I don't know. I don't know how the public, like the casuals or the general audience, would understand that. Yeah, let me know if you have any ideas on that. Okay. But that is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So I gave my thoughts here. I think this movie is one of the best origin films that they've had recently. I like it better than Doctor Strange, which was one of the recent ones. I actually like this better than Black Panther, which I know, blasphemy, right? I don't know. I would watch this movie a lot. I can't wait till it comes out on Blu-ray or Disney Plus so I could watch it some more times. Like I said, I really liked the choreography, really liked the action in it. The comedy was great. It wasn't overbearing. It wasn't at raw there wasn't a punchline after a heartfelt moment, which sometimes happens in these movies. So that was great. overall, very pleased. And I was just saying to my wife, too, I hope they kind of like bump up a sequel for this pretty quickly here. You know, Black Panther came out in 2018. We're going to get the sequel in 2022. That's 4 years. Ragnarok was 2017. Love and Thunder is 2022. We're at 5 years there. You know, Marvels, Captain Marvel in 2019, The Marvels in 2023, so that's another 4-year gap. Ant-Man Quantumania would be 2023. Ant-Man and the Wasp was 2019. Another 4-year gap. So we're kind of at this point where the sequels are 4-year gaps, when before they would be 2 or 3. Spider-Man is the exception because Sony has it in their contract. They're always trying to get out 2 years. Every 2 years, get a Spider-Man movie. So who knows? I would like to see a sequel more soon than 4 years from now. Geez, 4 years from now would be 2025. But hopefully we just see him in Shang-Chi in another movie as well, like before a sequel. Who knows? Oh well. Alright. I think that about wraps it up here. I don't give out letter grades. I don't give out number grades, really. Just a great film. Even if it wasn't part of the MCU, like this had really great world building where you could conceive that they could make a whole trilogy or more off of it. With Ta Lo and the 10 Rings and Shang-Chi and, you know, all the characters that they have. They have really great side characters. Katie was a great, she was a lead as well. She wasn't like just a supporting character. She was like a second lead. Shay Ling was great. Really, just so many good characters in this movie. But yeah, so if you want to go ahead and give us a follow, you can give us a follow on Twitter at TO Infinity Saga. On Facebook, we are Infinity Saga Beyond, or you can email us marvelplusrecaps@gmail.com. Yeah, I think that's it. We're going to talk What If. We just found out What If episode 5 is Marvel Zombies episode. So we will get that on Wednesday, and I'll probably record with Jack sometime during the week or the weekend and get that out sometime between Friday or Sunday, I think. It's probably the time that's going to come out. As we're already, once we get halfway through episode 5 of What If, we will be halfway through What If, season 1. So, looking forward to that. And then I think we have another little break because Hawkeye's not coming out till November. And it looks like Miss Marvel was pushed back to 2022. So, yeah, we're in pretty good shape there. And then Eternals are in November as well. And Spider-Man still in December. Actually, Sony moved up Venom. So they pushed Venom back originally to mid-October. And then with the success Shang-Chi just had, they moved it up to October 1st now. So there you go. Shang-Chi, let's talk box office here. Weekend, it made $71 million. I think for the 4-day, it's at 90. Pretty good. Really good start here. It shows that people will go to the movie theaters to see a movie. Especially if it's only in theaters. You know, people stayed home for Suicide Squad because it's on TV, on HBO Max. People kind of stayed home for Black Widow, even though it still made $80 million opening weekend, but $60 million on Disney Plus. So, you know, the fact that you took away the Disney Plus option for Shang-Chi and people went and saw it, it's great. And it broke records for Labor Day in the middle of a pandemic. So, overall, really good box office performance. Of course, we're going to get a sequel. Destin Daniel Cretton, I think he should direct the next Avengers films. It was great. But that's all I'll say about it. We'll get other people's opinions on it as they come onto the show, but not, Logan, Matt, and Jack haven't seen it yet, and they're the ones we've had on our show pretty consistently, so I didn't have anybody else to join me on this one, so I apologize if I rambled or went on tangents during the hour of this recording. But thank you for your patience, and thank you for listening, and have a great rest of your week, and we will talk Marvel's What If, Episode 5, the Zombies episode. That's the next episode you'll get in your feed, so have a great rest of your night.